Return to the Dark Tower has quickly become one of my favorite board games. One of the more unique elements to this game is how players interact with these skull tokens. It's fun, interactive, and something I've really enjoyed about the game. Like with most games with tokens, you can keep the supply of these off to the side of the board in a pile. This works, but we could make this so much better. So I'm setting out to create a thematic token tray for these skulls. And I'll even be trying out a few simple ways to add some lighting effects to our project. With a quick sketch, I've worked out some ideas for the tray. I've pulled together some visual elements of the game's design and established the concept of a crystal structure carved into the shape of a skull. A fun visual element of the game that I want to carry over are the lighting effects from the tower. And to do that, I'll be using these. A simple, cheap LED tea light. The idea is to crack one of these open, modify it, so they will fit snugly into the bottom of our tray, mimicking the eerie glow of the tower and further connecting the two visually. But more on that later. For now, I have enough of a plan, so I'll jump over into ZBrush and start blocking this in. Okay, so I just want to pause at this stage of the block-in and go over a couple things. I'm liking how everything is shaping up right now, but I do feel that I could push the connection to the tower just a little bit more. Looking at some reference of the tower, these 4 distinct crystal spikes at the top are really important to the silhouette. I would like to incorporate these into our design, not only for the visual connection, but also this is where the players drop the skulls into at the end of their turn. So it connects our tray to the tower as well. So let's take these notes, jump back in, and finish up the block out. So the first draft is off the printer, and I gotta say, I really like the presence it has on the table, but the unfortunate thing is that I feel like it just needs to be a little smaller. It's a little too big to be practical. I might have gotten a little carried away with some of these details and lost track of how big I wanted this thing to be in the end. The final iteration needs to be small enough so that it can be packed into the game box, but retain many of the design elements we have here. The good news is that all of our measurements and scaling were correct, so we don't need to make any changes for that for the next round. Also, the semi-translucent resin has arrived, so the final iteration will be printed using that, and that will allow it to capture the lighting effects we have in mind. So let's get back into ZBrush, make those changes, get this thing printed out again, and start playing around with the lighting. While that was printing, I got started on the lights. Modifying these tea lights was actually pretty simple, though I did try a few different approaches to see which I liked best. For the first try, I wanted it to be as simple as possible, so I used a single tea light. In order to keep the switch working, with the LED no longer attached, I had to glue the LED to the top of the battery housing and then bend the wire leads so that they would fit back into place. This is the simplest way to achieve the lighting effect I was going for. However, with only one LED, it's not as bright as it could be. So for the next test, I wanted to try and add a second LED, but keep the same switch and housing. The only additional modification needed was to increase the size of the hole in the switch to accommodate 2 wire leads instead of just one. With the 2 LEDs wired in parallel, you will drain the battery faster, but I do really like the added brightness. The one irritation with both of these methods is the switch. It's finicky and it's not all that reliable. To try and solve that for the final test, I wanted to add a more reliable switch to the light. This, however, required a bit of soldering, which added wires and more bulk so that it didn't quite fit as well as the other lights. If I was to go down this path again, I feel like I could get a much better result if I built the whole lighting insert from scratch, which I might do in future, but that would be for a whole nother video. Oh, and one last thing I want to add to this process are a few layers of red cellophane to tint these LEDs red. That will give us that eerie glow that will match the tower. And with that done, let's take a look at the final result. I am quite pleased with the look of this thing. It has such an intimidating presence on the table and adds just that little bit of extra flair to an already striking game. As each skull is removed, more and more of the eerie red glow is revealed inside the tray, acting as a stressful reminder for one of the many ways you can lose. Which was a total happy accident, but I'll take it. If you enjoyed this video and are interested in some of the techniques used in the creation of the tray, consider getting subscribed, as I will be producing some content going over some of those topics in the coming weeks. If you're looking for some more content, click the screen to check out some of my other videos.